What's up, my fellow chicken leg twinks? It's your boy Big Musk here, back at it again with another classic Battle Twink guide. This time we'll be taking a look at the Mage class. Let's start off by looking at the pros and cons of the Mage class in the 19 Twink bracket. Mage offers very good crowd controls and slows. They are useful in BG comps as their polymorph can take out a healer or a high DPS target for upwards of 20 seconds. The Gravestone Scepter from Black Fathom Depths gives them consistent DPS even while out of mana, and opens up an entirely new build exclusive to the 19 Twink bracket. Frostbolt offers a 40% slow on a very short cast time, which is useful for peeling and kiting. There's a lot of different builds and playstyles you can go with for 19 mages. Mages shine in team play. Mages have the only decurse in the game. Mages never have to worry about running out of food and water during a PvP excursion due to the ability to conjure it. Some of the cons that mages suffer from is that if they cannot get into the dead zone of a hunter, they get completely destroyed in every way. The hit stun alone is enough to make mages pretty much useless. Personally, I believe Frost is the overall better spec, but has much lower damage than Fire due to Fire having rank 4 Fireball as opposed to Frost only having rank 3 Frostbolt at the time. Fire Mage does a lot more damage, but it suffers from absurdly long cast times even when talented. Mages are arguably the squishiest class in the 19 Twink bracket as they don't have mana or ice barrier yet. Casters, including mages, are by far the most expensive Twinks at the 19 bracket due to their expensive enchants as well as the fact the majority of their gear is expensive BOEs found on the auction house. Pre-20 mages lack blink, making them extremely immobile and easy to lock down. Now that we got some of the pros and cons of the mage class out of the way, let's take a look at some of the gear and enchants you want to look out for and where you can obtain said gear. You have two options for your helmet, first being the lucky fishing hat and the second being the green tinted goggles. I always go with the green tinted goggles since you want 150 engineering anyways as a twink, and the lucky fishing hat requires hours of fishing, which I simply don't have the patience for. The only enchant you should even consider is the plus 100 HP Librum of Constitution. For your neck, you'll want the Warsong Gold, Sentinel's Medallion, or the Scout's Medallion, depending on which faction you're playing. This is only obtainable in certain patches, and there's no other option, so if you don't have the rep or are not on the right patch to get this item, then leave the slot empty. For shoulders, the free Talbar Mantle is your best bet. These are obtained from completing the Wailing Caverns event and looting the glowing green shard from Mutinex the Devourer. The only enchant option is the GG enchant, although it's very tricky to get them on a low level character. For your cape, you want to pick up the Watcher's Cape of the Eagle, which is plus 3 stamina and plus 3 int. This can be bought or randomly attained through world drops. You have the option of either 70 armor, plus 5 resistances, or plus 3 agility. I personally like the spicy plus 3 agility due to the fact that agility gives you armor anyways. Your wand and melee attacks have a higher chance of critical strike. For your chest piece, you'll be looking at spending 10 to 30 gold depending on the server economy for the tree bark jacket. For enchants, you'll be looking at either plus 4 stats, plus 3 stats, or 100 HP. I usually go with the plus 3 stats because I prefer it over 100 HP, especially on classes like Hunter or Shaman, which benefit from every stat. Not to mention, it's way cheaper than plus 4 stats. Bracers are one of the least important and lowest statted items you can obtain. Pick up the affordable, plus 3 int and plus 3 stam bracers, or the bright bracers off the auction house. The only enchant you should ever consider here is plus 9 stamina enchant. It's the plus 9 stamina enchant which offers more total stats than the bracers themselves. As for your hands, you want to pick up the Mage Fist Gloves, a blue BOE item. Pre-Anchorage, enchant these gloves with greater agility for the armor. Once AQ opens up, you are given the option of either Fire Power or Frost Power depending on which spec you feel like playing. Goldsteins can think about buying 2 pairs of Mage Fist Gloves and enchanting each with Fire and Frost respectively. Moving down to your waist, Keller's Girdle is the best option here, which will cost you 5 to 15 gold. There's not actually much to say about this item really other than the stats it offers are a mile above any green item you can obtain. Next up we have the Dark Weave Breeches, another item with absurd stat values for its level. Be ready to shell anywhere from 20 to 50 gold for these pants. Once again, there is no point in an alternative due to the raw stat value these offer you. Plus 100 HP is the best enchant by far for these pants. The 1 gold Sanguine Sandals are the best boot and are cheap enough to not warrant an alternative. Minor Run Speed is a mandatory enchant for any 19 Twink due to the lack of mobility in this bracket. Now for rings, you actually have a couple options here. You want to grab the Seal of Rin if you're Alliance, or the Seal of Sylvanas if you're Horde, followed up by the lavishly jeweled ring from the Dead Mines. Once you get enough rep with Warsong Gulch, you can pick yourself up a Lore Keeper's ring or Advisor's ring depending on your faction. You only have two trinket options here. The Arena Grand Master, which is obtained from the Stranglethorn Vale Arena. This trinket is an absolute pain to obtain, and I may make a guide on it later once I figure out the fastest strategy of obtaining this item. Personally, I've always been far too lazy to get this trinket. That being said, it's absolutely worth the time, as the shield you get from this item is massive, not to mention the percent dodge chance is nothing to scoff at. Be cautious around priests and shamans, as they can purge that 800 shield off, leaving you vulnerable. The second trinket you want to pick up is the PvP Medallion trinket that breaks you out of CC effects, which can be completed in a couple battlegrounds. For your main weapon, you'll want to pick up the Crescent Staff from the Leaders of the Fang quest. This is a free staff with absurd melee damage and very powerful stats on it. The only enchant to consider is the absurdly expensive plus 30 spell damage enchant. If you've seen my Wand Priest video, you'll know what wand to get, and that's the Gravestone Scepter, which can be obtained only at level 19. This wand is scaled for mid to high level 20s, but since it's a quest item, you can use it right at level 19. Complete the Blackfall Nobility with the help of a friend, have them clear the dungeon all the way to Keldris so you do not get any experience. This wand opens up the wand DPS spec for both priests and mages. Sadly, the mage's wand damage is locked behind some worthless arcane talents, but you can still make it work due to being able to root enemies with Frost Nova and slow them with Frost Pulse. Let's take a look at some of the different talent build options you can take. We'll start off with a few Frost builds. The first and best Frost build I suggest is 5 out of 5 improved Frost Bolts for the insanely fast rank ones it allows you to throw out, followed up by 2 out of 2 improved Frost Nova, and finally 3 out of 3 Permafrost for the buffed up Chill. You can swap the 3 of 3 Permafrost to 3 of 3 Frostbite for the 15% chance to root. Permafrost is a consistent talent, whereas Frostbite is relying on RNG, which I'm not a fan of. Second up, if you're encountering a lot of pesky dwarves with the Frost Resist ratio, you can take a hit on your Frostbolt cast time to pick up 6% resist reduction. For Fire Mage, the first and best build I'd suggest is the 5 out of 5 improved Fireball, 3 out of 3 improved Fire Blast, and 2 out of 2 Flame Throwing. This build relies on no RNG procs at all and is by far the most consistent. Rank 4 Fireball can hit pretty hard, and having the extra range on all of your spells helps you chain Fire Blasts into Fireballs, which is a hefty amount of burst damage. If huge damage is your style though, go 5 out of 5 improved Fireball and 5 out of 5 Ignite. The negative of this build is that you're relying on critical strikes, but if you hit them, the extra Ignite damage is nothing to scoff at. If you're looking for damage and a bit of utility, you can also consider going with Impact, although I actually would not recommend this build due to the fact that if you're looking for a crowd control CC utility build, you may as well just pick Frost. Now, if you're looking to play the real Chad build, you can head into the Arcane tree and take 2 out of 2 Arcane Subtlety and 3 out of 5 Arcane Focus. Then, take 2 out of 2 Wand Specialization for that huge 25% wand damage boost, and for your last 3 points, I'd recommend taking 3 points into improved Frost Bolts so you can keep targets slowed, allowing more wand casts from your Gravestone Scepter. And finally, the last build you can take is a Frost-Fire Hybrid, which relies entirely on casting Frostbolt to slow and then nuking with big fireballs. Take 5 out of 5 improved Fireball, 2 out of 5 improved Frostbolt, and 3 out of 3 Elemental Precision. Now for Consumes and Professions, you'll want 150 Engineering. You'll also want to grab First Aid and level it to 225 for the absurd 2000 Healing offered by the Heavy Runecloth Bandages. Here are some general tips while playing Mage. Try to stay on the sidelines and not become the focused target. As Frost, You are the best at peeling pets and melee off your team, as well as slowing running enemies. Make sure to always use your polymorph on targets to keep them temporarily out of the fight, but keep in mind the diminishing return timer. You're at your strongest when you're able to stand there and free cast. Play this class like a vulture circling dying prey, and hard cast on the enemy while they're occupied in a fight with one of your team members. Even as Frost Mage, rank 1 Frostbolt into a max rank Frostbolt is better than just casting that rank 3 max ranked Frostbolt. Instant casts are best used after a hard casted ability. This is due to the way the GCD works in WoW. A combo, for example, is rank 1 Frostbolt into Fire Blast while moving towards or away from your target, depending on if they are chasing or fleeing. Try to avoid using instant cast without comboing it with a hard cast first, unless of course you're purely running away and don't have time to hard cast. For the wand build, rank 1 Frostbolt and Frost Nova is your best friend. This is your best bet against hunters. Try to polymorph the pet and get into the hunter's dead zone with rank 1 Frostbolts. Once in the dead zone, hit hunter with a Frost Nova and begin wanding or hard casting depending on the build you've chosen to take. If done correctly, the hunter will be too far away to respond with melee attacks, but also too close to respond with ranged attacks. This strategy works with every single mage build. A fun thing to note is that your wand and melee attacks share a different cooldown timer. Crescent Staff has absurdly high damage on it for its level, so a fun thing to do is get 1 or 2 wand casts off and then go in for a melee hit with the Crescent Staff for a quick burst of damage. You can even throw a Fire Blast into this combo for some hilarious burst damage. If played right, Mage can be a very strong 19 Twink class. They shine a lot more in Warsong Gulch than they do in open world Twink PvP. If you're looking for a caster with lots of different playstyles, then Mage may be right for you. Just remember, cloth Twinks are very expensive, and they're a lot harder to play in this bracket, so be ready to shell out a ton of gold if you want any chance of being viable. Thanks guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to subscribe. There are more classic MOU Twink guides in the works. If you have a guide you'd like me to make next, then feel free to leave it in the comments below. Anyways boys, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys next time.